This culminating moment of our worship series during Lent invites us to consider a commission from Christ to his disciples to heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, and cast out demons. These are the very things his disciples have seen him do, and that we have sought to witness for our own lives. So what will we do with this commission? How will we address ongoing pain with hope and conviction, even though we ourselves are healed and yet still healing? Today's service will take us through various verses from the Gospel of Matthew that will prayerfully enable us to discern how we might more fully find our place in the ongoing story of Jesus' life and love.
Vessels holy and whole, broken, needing the one, open, body and soul, healer come.
Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew the tax collector, James, Simon, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment.
Jesus had been teaching, healing, and touching, and transforming lives for 3 years. His presence in the midst of suffering had offered hope to so many. And yet, his ways had also challenged the power of privilege. When healing was needed, no one was left outside of compassion. And this threatened to upset the hierarchy of things, touching the untouchables, mixing with folks outside or below Jesus' status, raising up the faith of outsiders and nobodies, had certainly gotten attention. The last shall be first was not sitting well with the first of society. His popularity was evident the day he and his disciples set foot in Jerusalem. Those in the seats of power who wanted to keep the peace, even an unjust, unholy, unfair, unseeing peace, were all talking about the problem. Crowds where Jesus was teaching in Jerusalem were infiltrated by leaders seeking to catch him in controversy. And time and again, Jesus answered with truth and faith, leaving naysayers speechless.
When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to them, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets."
When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "You know, after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, and they conspired to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, "Not during the festival, or there may be a riot among the people."
Matthew's gospel is particularly concerned with indicting the leaders of Jesus' own people for their role in his crucifixion. We acknowledge our need to restore, repair, and renew our holy vessels so that we might be able to create and imagine new possibilities, new solutions for the healing that is required to make the world more just and more whole. Let us pray. God of suffering, you take no delight in the destruction of your creation, your people. Our own broken edges, sharp and raw, contribute to the pain sometimes, especially during prolonged difficulty, the challenges that we find ourselves struggling. We cannot manage it on our own, and yet we try, forgetting to turn to you, forgetting to turn to each other. Forgetting the power you offer, the commission you give to turn our tears to balm, to use our broken edges to cleave new realities of justice and hope. It all feels overwhelming, and so we often find ourselves looking away. Help us, Holy Healer. Show us our connection to your healing power. Forgive our disbelief and move us to move, one step at a time, toward greater care for all of your creation. And in the silence, help us to sense and acknowledge our yearning for wholeness.
Very
Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters because of me this night, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.' But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even though I must die with you, I will deny you."
Disciples, I invite you to repeat after me. I will never desert you. I will never deny you. I will never desert you. I will never deny you. I will never desert you. I will never deny you.
Vessels holy and whole, broken, needing the one, open, body and soul, healer come.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So, could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak."
Let us take this moment, as Jesus did, to dare ask the questions that come from the most broken places of our souls, our deepest grieving. It's an acknowledgement of what feels most broken, most cynical, most impossible, that healing can occur. For we must address the roots of all of this in order for the solve of God's desire to enter into the depths of our souls. And so you're invited to a time of reflection, becoming awake, so to speak, and staying awake to the deep need within and around you.
Again, he went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again, he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way?" At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place, so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
Vessels, holy and whole, broken, needing the one, open, body and soul, healer come.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards, in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You've said so. But I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? Now you have heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" And they answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who is it that struck you?"
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you're talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
Vessels holy and whole, broken, needing the one, open, body and soul, healer come.
When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." But they said, "What is that to us? See to it yourself." Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went, and he hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, "It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money." After conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one on whom a price had been set, on whom some of the people of Israel had set a price, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded.
Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" For he realized it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water, washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. Then the people as a whole answered, His blood be on us and on our children. So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man named Simon. They compelled this man to carry the cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. And they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head, they put the charge against him, which read, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, You who would destroy the temple and build it up in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants to, for he said, I am God's son. The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, This man is calling for Elijah. At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, Wait, let us see whether Elijah comes to save him. Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now, when the centurion and those around him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, Truly, this man was God's son.
Many women were also there looking on from the distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in clean linen cloth and laid it in his own tomb. When he had hewn in the rock, he had rolled a great stone door to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb.
All during Lent, we have remembered the healing acts of Jesus, the radical nature of the boundaries which he crossed in order to restore wholeness, the desire of God that transcends all things that we do to stand in the way of that wholeness, including the death of kindness, love, and compassion. Are there things that need to die within us to make room for the resurrection of our lives? Are there things that we can lovingly lay to rest that are no longer needed? Indeed, that may stand in the way of our recovery of wholeness.
Vessels holy and whole, broken, needing the one, open, body and soul, healer come.
The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember what the impostor said while he was still alive. After 3 days I will rise again. Therefore, command the tomb be made secure until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may go and steal him away and tell the people he has been raised from the dead. And the last deception would be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard of soldiers. Go make it secure as you can." So they went with the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone.
Though there is no reason for rushing, when you are ready, you may go in silence, but not in despair. And as you do, may the words of Jesus ring in your ears. I am with you always. I am with you always. Stay as long as needed in this safe sanctuary. And when you are ready to head out into the world, may the Spirit hover and move and deliver salve to your achy places until we meet again on the day of resurrection. Amen.
fury shaking, my soul is tired, my breath is gone. I cry, how long, Lord, this evil season, unending pain and tears. My heart is breaking, my fury shaking, my soul is tired, my breath is gone. I cry, how long, Lord, this evil season, unending pain and tears. Use our anger to melt the swords of hate. Use our tears to water thirsty ground. Give us courage to love all you create. Come to us and turn your world around. Come to us and turn your world around. Use our anger to melt the swords of hate. Use our tears to water thirsty ground. Give us courage to love all you create. Come to us and turn this world around. Come to us and turn the world around. Our hearts are breaking, our fury shaking, our souls are tired, our breath is gone. We cry, how long, Lord, this evil